you start, you circle the board once for each player. Then we say, as friends we gather, hearts are true.
As friends we gather, hearts are true.
Spirits near we call to you.
Spirits near we call to you.
Is someone here with us?
Welcome to Now Playing Podcast Ouija Retrospective Series.
How are you even supposed to talk to someone using a board game?
Part of our board game movie retrospective series.
You guys want to play?
Hosted by Arnie.
Do not go seeking answers from the dead.
Justin.
You seem too cool for these kinds of things.
And Stuart.
I can't help it, I'm a picky bitch.
But be warned, this episode will contain detailed plot spoilers and mildly objectionable language.
We're none of us perfect, Lena.
We hope you enjoy the show.
Let's begin.
Today we're discussing Ouija, Origin of Evil, starring Elizabeth Reaser, Lulu Wilson, Annalise Brasso, Henry Thomas, directed by Mike Flanagan. Speak to me. I'm a vessel. I can help you. All right, I'm not a vessel, but I am a podcaster. This is Arnie.
And Stuart.
And hi again, friend, Justin.
2 years later, they decided that there was still some coin to be had in a sequel to that movie nobody liked, Ouija.
Yeah, but keep in mind, nobody liked anything Platinum Dunes did. I mean, that was just the thing about Platinum Dunes is they made a lot of money with their stuff, but they were hated with their stuff. And what we're discussing today is the first Platinum Dunes movie to get a certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. The only one, the first one.
Ooh. Wow. Is that true?
Yeah.
The first time Michael Bay entered respectability, or at least his company. Yeah. And the reason for that being, let's just go ahead. We called it out last week. You prepared me for that. And I'm happy to know that Stiles White is nowhere near this. The creator of that terrible original is long gone. Has been exorcised from the premises. And we get, I will call him a true horror master. Mike Flanagan is on a real roll in Netflix. I think Haunting of Hill House is one of the best horror projects ever, period. Just one of the great horror works. His House of Usher rocked. Midnight Mass. Hush was good. Bly Manor was solid. Yeah, this guy makes something and I turn up for it. Always. But I hadn't seen this. I didn't know he made it.
Have you seen Oculus? Because that's where he really broke big. And I never saw Oculus because I got confused with the Oculus Rift. I thought the Oculus movie was like a Facebook movie about VR headsets.
No, yeah. It's about a mirror, but I saw it. He has been given the task of trying to save the Exorcist franchise. They're not picking up after Believer. They're going to have him try to come up with a sequel next year. It's on him to try and salvage that. So I think this might be the warm-up, right? Like this is him showing us what an Exorcist movie from Mike Flanagan might look like.
Well, it's also either a good sign or a bad sign that he has a stable of actors that follow him around from project to project. So that could go one of either ways. That means that they can't get work anywhere else, or they really respect the way he directs.
Yeah, he loves Henry Thomas, man. He loves him more than E.T. loved him, man. Like, not letting this guy go.
Yeah, if you need to reprise Jack Nicholson for Dr. Sleep, Henry Thomas.
Yeah. He don't look nothing like Jack Nicholson. That was the weirdest casting. But yeah, he always finds a way to put Henry Thomas in this, and Henry Thomas is in this cast as well. Now, Arnie, you said you saw this one before.
Yeah, I saw this in theaters. I was reviewing it for that UK radio show. It was a new release. It wasn't necessarily what I would have picked, but it was the new release that week, and so I went and saw it, and had just a great time with the screening. I mean, just to talk about the production here, this movie is made like a 70s film. It had cigarette burns in the corner and then reel jumps in between the reels where the sound would pop and the image would stutter. This movie was filmed digitally, but there are scratches and dirt on the frame and all this stuff added to make it feel like a old film reel. And they even used like the old Universal Movies logo at the very beginning. This movie, to see in a theater, was like a time transport. It really took me back to my youth of seeing films, and having kind of a fun, scary time with it. I mean, it's a period piece, but yet filmed almost as if it were filmed in that period. Flanagan even looked at using old lenses and old camera equipment. Not, obviously it was going to be digital, not like they were going to use film, but putting the lenses from old times onto new cameras to get that kind of look with it. I was very impressed when I saw this in theaters. Like I said last time, my feeling when I saw it once was it was the biggest step up from an original film to a sequel I'd ever seen. Because rarely do you start with a piece of shit and not get a piece of shit for a follow-up. So it's, I'm not saying this is the best sequel ever. I'm saying just the greatest recovery in cinematic history.
Sure.
And you gotta talk about Mike Flanagan because this was all his idea. The guys at Blumhouse and the guys at Platinum Dunes knew that first movie made a bunch of money, but wasn't liked. And their entire idea was anthology. A new Ouija movie that just, the only connection is it has the board. And Mike Flanagan was like, no, I want to make this a period piece and I want to tie into the mythology of the first movie. I want that connective tissue. I want to flesh out the backstory and I have a way to do that. And so he would go on to co-write and direct this film. It's his brainchild though.
Yeah. And you talk about it opening on that old school Universal logo. And we also talked about last week with how many different projects were called Ouija over the years that, we weren't going to watch. I had to stop for a second and make sure I was watching a current movie that came out in 2016. I was like, wait, I might have found one of those old ones that we're not watching. It got me. It sets a tone. Seeing that old school logo is like, just like a warm blanket to be like, all right, we're going into a period now.
Well, it's a warm blanket for us, but I do wonder about the kids today. They don't like those cigarette burns, grainy film look and all that. And the box office reflects that, even though it's outrageous to think that our original movie is going to outgross this. This didn't make the same coin. It made 35 in the States, 45 overseas. It lost a fourth of the profits that the original made.
Yeah, it's unbelievable that it didn't do better, but still a very cheap movie. Not as cheap as the first one, but somewhere between 9 and 12 million. Nobody lost money on this deal.
Yeah, and it had to go against some big heavy hitters. Medea had her Halloween movie, Boo, come out the same weekend. And how can you compete?
You just can't.
Nope. One day we'll do that retrospective, I'm sure.
I'm sure we won't.
Well, Arnie, give them the plot.
In Los Angeles in 1967, the Xander family was barely scraping by. Widowed mother Alice, played by Elizabeth Reaser, makes money by giving psychic readings to rubes. She's able to make these seances seem supernatural thanks to aid from her two daughters, Lena, played by Annalise Brasso, and Doris, played by Lulu Wilson. One night, Lena goes to a friend's house where they play with a Ouija board, and Lena suggests her mother make the board a part of her act. Alice does, but soon Doris is using the board to talk to her dead father from beyond the grave. When the family is about to lose the house due to Alice not making the mortgage payments, Doris's spirit friend tells the little girl about a stash of cash in the house's basement. Alice is excited and starts to have Doris give the psychic readings to her customers, keeping the girl home from school in order to make more money with seemingly real conversations with the spirits. But Doris wasn't talking to her dead father, but rather a Nazi physician known as the Devil's Doctor due to the experiments he did on prisoners. That Nazi escaped to the United States and continued his experiments in the very home where the Xanders now live. The spirit of the Devil Doctor, played by Doug Jones, inhabits Doris fully. The little girl kills Lena's boyfriend Mikey, played by Parker Mack. Then she kills school principal Father Tom, played by Henry Thomas. Alice and Lena try to stop the girl, and Lena realizes she needs to sew Doris's mouth shut to stop the evil spirits. She does this, and Doris dies, her spirit now reunited with her father. But the evil inhabits Lena. The older girl stabs and kills Alice. Lena is then taken to a mental hospital, where she'll eventually become Lynn Shay, as credits roll.
Yeah, and as we start, I would have guessed what, I guess, the Blumhouse people were thinking. We just tell another entirely different story. Even the name Origin of Evil, I wasn't getting prequel. I just figured with a new director, we're going in a new direction. it really, I would even say it was an unpleasant surprise to realize when we see that house again. I recognized it. It's Los Angeles, 1967, but I'm like, uh-oh, that's the same house. But I do want to call out, he's doing something out of continuity. When we learned about that house in the last movie, it was in newspaper articles surrounded by stories about the Korean War, which pegs that movie around like 51.
Yeah.
They're telling the family story again, but they're not so close to continuity that they care that they're going to directly tie to what was in that Google search. That whatever backstory data dump that crap was in the first movie.
Yeah, and I'm perfectly okay with them fudging any of the backstory that first movie set up, you know?
Oh shit, yeah. I'm mad they're even going there, because again, I don't want to think about that movie. It was horrible. But I do like this opening scene, and it is charming to see, a cast member that he uses often, Elizabeth Reaser. She was the mortician in the Hill House movie, and also had a role in Twilight. Here she is as, well, I could tell right away. She's a sham fortune teller trying to convince Mr. Browning and his daughter that he could talk to the dead wife.
Mr. Browning, I immediately recognized. He's been in a lot of stuff. He was in Forrest Gump, but to me, he will always be Mike Seaver's principal from Growing Pains.
Oh boy.
Okay.
I think what we learned here in this scene is, yes, they're scamming people, but they're doing it with the right intentions, right? We're not to look at this family as a bunch of gypsies that are just out to screw people over. I mean, actually, she refuses to take money for this first reading that we see.
Yeah, help me parse that out, because that is a weird moment. I think we realize that early on there are things that are meant to be like, oh, the table is shaking, the candle is being blown out. And this is supposed to put the skeptic. Mr. Browning is there with his daughter, Jenny. And Jenny is the one being like, don't pay this woman. This is full of it. We are to share her opinion that something is wrong here as this man, tries to ask his 3 questions. He's granted 3 candles, 3 questions. If the candles stay lit, that means yes. There's no Ouija board yet. If they get blown out, it means no.
And there is a deleted scene from later in the movie where we do see this daughter killing her father or choking him in a car. So what that would drive home is that the mother here is really trying to help this guy not get screwed over by his daughter and not take his money even, because that's what the daughter is trying to do.
Although we'll find out that this was actually a decision made by Alice. Again, the medium woman who all we saw of her in the last one, she looked very different. It was a frumpy woman and like her hair in a bun and sort of the stereotypical librarian look. Nothing like this kind of soft mother hippie-ish Mother Earth kind of character that is, again, she could have answered either way. When the guy asks, should I mortgage my house and give all my money to my daughter and her fiance for some great investment? I mean, what's it to her? She could have said, yeah, sure, but she didn't like that woman. We don't like that Jenny. So, of course, we want to see that plan thwarted.
Yeah, I mean, this is the standard opening where you're going to get empathy for your main character. They do some act to get the audience on their side, and the act here is not taking this poor man's money.
And tell me why that is. Because Alice, I think I hear her later say she really does aspire to do this for real, even though she is totally a showman and is not believing that she ever in any moment contacts the Mary spirit. I think that she regrets upsetting this man so much. He leaves believing that his wife is angry at him because, I guess, the daughter, she has one daughter in the cabinet blowing out candles, and the other daughter comes in a little too forcefully in the black veil.
Well, I see it that she really feels like she's performing a service, even though she might not be sensitive. She does feel like she's helping aggrieved people move on. Right? Yeah. Like, she's not doing this maliciously. Sure, she's making a couple bucks to keep her family house, but she's not doing it just as a pure scam.
Yeah, I think that helps us, like, anytime you got con artists, that's a sticky line, right? Why should we like people that rip other people off? they've given us a good reason. And of course, there's another layer here. Part of what their sensitivity lies in the fact that they too have lost a loved one very recently. The father of the house, he's in all the pictures all over, but nowhere to be seen because Roger is dead. For mysterious reasons, he is gone, and the children would love to be able to talk to him. They don't want to pray to God. They want to pray to Roger.
Yeah, this sets up a nice family unit. I mean, Flanagan is working within the parameters that were set up last time. 2 sisters and a mother. The mother is a psychic. This was all laid out last time. But like you say, not hewing too religiously to what was said before. And yeah, it's easy to like this family and not feel like they are just grifters who are out to make a buck and not very good at it, as we're going to find out. You know, they're not really getting the bills paid.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the act was pretty convincing. It would have worked. Again, I thought that she had every right in the world to ask for that money. But again, she seems to hate the fact that the man left upset. She wants to comfort people, and she wants to comfort her girls as well. But yes, she is looking at a stack of bills and thinking, how am I going to pay for this? While her eldest daughter, who, again, was the one that I guess wasn't really into it, right? She's the one that wants to be normal. She wishes she wasn't in a family that talks to ghosts all the time. She would rather go sneak out and drink with friends. She doesn't want to perfect her act as a spirit.
Yeah, she just reads as a typical teenage girl who's outgrowing, being a little girl with the family, doing everything with the family. She wants to find herself. So yeah, very, very understandable. She's finding herself as a young woman.
And rejecting the upbringing. Any way you raise a child, at some point, they're not going to accept it. And again, if my mom reads, tea leaves and tarot cards, when I go over to my friend's house and they have a new edition, Parker Brothers, I guess this is actually the way the box looked. Not my box, but there's like this Grim Reaper on the cover. She finds the Ouija board that was just released by Parker Brothers within the last year. If it's 1967, she doesn't want to play it. She doesn't want to talk to spirits. She's not into this.
No, but peer pressure will always get you. They're going to entice her to have a cup of coffee, even though it's too late to drink coffee. I mean, this is PG-13. I guess it's too young to be pushing booze on teenagers, so coffee is going to be the peer pressure drink of choice.
No, they're drinking alcohol in coffee cups. I definitely got the sense they were drinking alcohol.
Yeah.
I literally thought they were drinking coffee.
No, this was the way that they were like covering it. And they talked about how their mom would also come home with, quote, coffee on her breath. Again, this is a euphemism. I agree. They're trying to, if you have a real young one, you don't want to send a signal that this is normalized underage drinking. But it's definitely what Lena is there for. And so when they break out the board, she's rolling her eyes. But I think she's kind of excited when Mikey asks his question and wants to know if the spirits agree that Lena will go to the homecoming dance with him. We see a romantic interest developing with these other two.
Yeah, I wish that was a little bit more developed. I know there were some more deleted scenes with that stuff, and he feels very superfluous to this film. He's always on the outside, this Mikey.
I get that he's sort of... what would I say? He's not exactly dangerous, but he does represent something a little bit adult and threatening. And Alice will definitely sit him down for a palm reading in which she'll mash his lifeline and let him know, my daughter is a sophomore. You're not to get her pregnant. It is the 60s after all.
Yeah, he's a little bit of an older boy, a bad boy, right? And like we said, she's growing up and starting to feel this type of way. And, an older boy came knocking at my door. I'd have a few words with him before I let him take my daughter out.
Yeah. So that's all developing. And then they have this other friend who is the host, and she's the one drinking and wanting to know. And then we have Betty, who's the fraidy cat, the one that really believes in this stuff and is asking about the other side. And I believe the message is COLD. Are we to think that there is a real spirit happening here? Is anything about the spirits we're going to meet at this board? I don't get the sense that they are.
I'm not sure. They never say goodbye because somebody busts in on them. And so that could be seen as what opens the door a little bit, maybe. I mean, again, like in the last movie, all 3 rules will be broken. And the first one is you don't say goodbye, and that happens here. So I can't tell. The fact that they say it's cold in the afterlife does feel like It is eerie, and I don't know that a teenager in the 60s would necessarily jump right to that as an idea for an answer.
Yeah, I don't know. I read it as maybe Hasbro trying to have it both ways, right? Like, because in this movie and the last movie, we open up each movie with an innocent round of Ouija where it really is just kids having fun and nothing happens because of that. And very much like in the last movie, the Ouija board really isn't the conduit for anything. It's just something that they're using when they discover there is a spirit in that house.
And yet Betty getting that answer cold does reflect something later that Doris says about the afterlife being cold and voiceless. Like, I don't know. It does feel like they're saying it at least works, right? That they could be talking to spirits. It doesn't feel like a sham the way that the mom is perpetuating her candle fortune telling. Because again, you want to sell copies of this thing, right? I mean, it's going to be the agenda of Hasbro that people that see this movie are going to want this spirit board.
Yeah, I think that it's definitely playing with that line there. And yeah, the biggest scare here, though, is that the mother comes in and calls all the kids' parents. And so Alice goes and she's mad at Lena for, I guess she snuck out?
Yeah, and drinking. Again, she's like, I can smell it on your breath. So she knows she's been consuming alcohol and, yeah, snuck out of her room and just seems to be rebelling, again, in all kinds of ways, is not falling into line and might be part of the reason why the mom seems to favor the younger child. But she does take her advice. Lena does just mention that they played Ouija and it was actually kind of fun. So when Alice is at the store the next day, she sees a copy, she picks it up, and soon the family is going to be maybe trying to talk to Roger.
What store was she at? That place was great. It was like a cafe, soda jerk, malt shop, toy store.
Yeah, I agree. It looked mostly like an ice cream parlor, but with, like, yes, board games, and I think she said she was there for candles. So, I don't know, kind of a general purpose store with some ice cream. I'm down.
And so she's going to try to contact her dead husband, and Doris in another room is already linked to this. She's going to start saying the answers from the Ouija board while her mother is frustrated that it's not saying anything, and she's going to try to hook up magnets to make it a better show.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that Alice is thinking about incorporating it into the act, right? She doesn't really believe in it, and yet privately, and I think this is a telling moment of like, we sit down as a family and try to connect any kind of presence, doesn't work. But later this night, after I've attached the magnets, after I've rigged it so that, people are really going to be impressed, it moves on its own. I just kind of want to know if maybe I can talk to Roger. And it helps us understand that Alice, again, has that kind heart because she's also a woman in grief.
But why is Doris so linked in that right at the beginning, before she's even really played with the board, she's giving the answers?
Well, I hear a couple things. I hear that Alice later will talk about her own mother being a fortune teller as well, and Alice never really had the gift for it. She just thought her mom was faking it, and later has fallen into it as a way to make money. She'd be just as happy to land a job as a secretary, right? We see her circling ads in the newspaper, just trying to get a job. It's a way of making some coin now that the breadwinner is dead. But maybe it skipped a generation, right? Maybe Doris actually inherited real powers that my mom really had, and that's kind of how it plays, right? Doris is early on tapped into hearing whispers and connecting with Marcus. Kind of in the same way that Carol Ann was with the TV set and Poltergeist.
Yeah, it plays like that she's a natural at this, right? Once again, it's not the Ouija board that's the conduit. I think that there's, she's natural at this and there's things in this house.
Yeah, but I do think the Ouija board is the thing. I mean, they were trying to contact spirits before, but this is the thing that actually, Doris is going to wake up in the middle of the night and play with the planchette and, get the hi friend message. So I do think it is the thing that first really helps her talk to Marcus.
Well, right, yeah, that's the essence of the Ouija board, right? It's the thing that you can speak to spirits with. It's got everything that they can spell out and answer your questions.
But she's not speaking to Marcus, is she? Marcus is going to be giving a letter later on, but she's talking to the devil doctor.
Well, hold that thought. Hold that thought. I believe she's talking to Barkis. That's how she answers the question. When we see Alice downstairs asking who is the spirit, we cut to her upstairs by the sewing machine saying Marcus. And whether that's the devil doctor lying about it or whether Marcus has evil intent, we can talk about when we get more into his backstory. But the whole point that I'm trying to make is Doris really does seem to have a talent for it. And it won't be long before, it sort of makes her, I think we're to understand part of the reason why she's bullied is that she's that weird kid, right? She'd rather talk to ghosts than talk to kids her own age. And so, when she emerges from school, other kids hone in on that. They pick on you, right? You're different. Doris the Dorcas.
Yeah, I mean, they have a sign in front of their house that says fortune teller. Kids are going to pick up on that and call you and your family witches.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that will get you some right ribbing, right? I mean, for sure. And interesting that they choose to go to a Catholic school, right? This is a religious school. The principal is Father Thomas, Henry Thomas, a man of the cloth who is definitely flirting with this Alice character. And it's kind of funny. I like the moment when, they just are going back and forth and kind of caught up in each other. And when they see the reaction of some of the older girls watching them, that's when they realize, oh, wait, we are flirting.
Oops.
Yeah, it's interesting because Father Tom is a widow. He had a wife who died. I guess he became a priest after she died. But I'm here trying to figure out, there's a lot of sects of Christianity. There's a lot of people with collars. Not all of them are priests. Some of them are just clergymen or reverends or ministers. So I'm like, is he a priest? Because he's going to go out on a date with Alice later on. So I couldn't decide if he was a capital P priest. I think he is.
Oh, no, 100%. He's a capital P priest, which is the thing that, yes, he left when his wife died. It was enough to push him into seminary and then, be married to the church. And so now, the impression I get is he's met a woman whose spirituality attracts him, but is different than his own. And of course, his religion's not going to let him take the flirting any further. That date you talk about, for him, that was just a way of trying to get her to talk about what she's doing with Doris.
Right. And I just want to say somebody on this production definitely went to Catholic school. I mean, the setup here, they know that it's a priest. They have nuns in the background. They nailed Catholic school uniforms. I mean, I went to 8 years of Catholic school and that looked exactly like what everybody wore to school every day.
Again, I think Mike Flanagan's going to do well with The Exorcist. I predict it could be the best Exorcist movie since the first one, which wouldn't be hard, actually. But yes, I do suspect that those details come from him. And he's good with characters in general. I like that all his characters are haunted. I mean, when I think about Hill House, and even before they encounter the ghost in the house, they're living these haunted lives. And here's a man who's grieving a wife who chose a profession that will keep him from ever connecting to another woman again. And now he's falling in love. That just feels like a nice tragic character to explore.
I think you guys have talked about him a little bit more and probably more familiar with his more recent work, but I haven't seen Henry Thomas in a few years. And when he first came on screen, I thought it was Osgood Perkins. I thought that was Anthony Perkins' son. I was like, kind of a nod to, an old school movie.
I could definitely see that. I just saw Osgood Perkins do a Q&A the other day. He also looks a lot like, Osgood looks a lot like Bill Hader.
Oh yeah, I can see that. They all three of those guys kind of come from the same mold a little bit.
And just to bring it full circle, Henry Thomas was in Psycho 4 and playing the young Norman Reedus. So,
Well, at any rate, I like the introduction of a priest character here. It does make it feel, once again, of a period piece. You think The Exorcist. You get a priest in here as one of your main characters. You're getting into some spooky territory.
Yeah, and I'm thinking a little bit about Poltergeist too, which was more 80s, but, it was a hippie family. And I like the idea that this little blonde girl, at first, she thinks she's doing good. When they come home and there's a floor closure notice on the door, she's just going to go talk to Dad about it. Dad will know what to do, and I finally have the means to talk to him. I think, that's the thing that the Ouija board has opened up. Before I had to just clasp my hands at bedtime and think that, he was listening to me up in heaven, and now he can talk back to me and tell me, yeah, there's a whole bunch of money in the basement.
I love this shot. There's so many shots in this movie I like. They're doing a lot of split diopter stuff early on with the seance. You see Alice in the foreground and the candle in the background. They're going to do that trick several times. But here, you get Alice and Lena talking on the front doorstep about what's going to happen if we have to move. And just in the background, the front door is open, and you see little Doris just walk away from the door down in the basement and then come back with a big thing of money. I just love the framing of that shot. There's humor in this movie. It's subtle, but it's very fun.
Yeah, and in Poltergeist, at first they didn't want to believe that their house had spirits, and there was the whole thing about marking the things on the kitchen floor and sliding across. It's kind of fun to think, oh, we have a way of talking to Dad. And for a minute there, I think, she asked about, when I told you I was pregnant, where were you? It's a question that only her husband should know the answer to. When the Ouija board says shower, she believes it's working. Like, she's convinced this is not an evil spirit. This is finally, all my life I've been pretending to talk to dead people, and now I finally have a connection to the dead person I care most about.
But why did the spirit, who is not the father, know she was in the shower? That is the one thing in this movie I can't answer the question to.
They explain it.
They answered it, yeah. Later on in the movie.
Yeah, they definitely explain it. Because the spirits have been there the whole time, ever since the 40s, I don't know how long it takes a Nazi to get from Germany to Southern California, but whatever time it took him to get there, once he set up shop in the basement, this is the secret room where the money was, is also where he continued to have evil Nazi experiments. All those spirits saw everyone that lived in the house. And so if there was an exchange between a husband and wife talking about a pregnancy in the shower, they were there watching.
Oh, okay. I didn't catch that bit.
Lena explains it later on when they're kind of putting things together. It was kind of a quick drop line.
Yeah. Well, I think the piece comes together. Yeah. And again, I just like these moments about, like, this is where Alice really is like, I get her hope. Again, the tragedy. Again, the hauntingness. I feel like such a sham inside, but I really wish I had this gift. And now my daughter might really actually have this gift, and I'm going to push her like a lot of moms do. They push their children into, a profession too early, and all of a sudden this girl is staying home from school and working herself to death, talking in the voices of dead people.
But at the same time, it seems like she's happy doing it. It's not like she's being tortured by this.
Kind of, except, like, she'll say, like, when some widow comes to talk about her husband, she'll answer in that old man voice and be like, my throat tickles. And I think talking in this way, like, ends up giving her the neck pain that she's going to be suffering from for much of the middle of the movie. The little girl is just always talking about cricks in her neck. And I think it comes from having spirits in her throat.
Yeah, that was kind of a strange thing, too, as I couldn't figure out what the neck pain was. I thought for sure that something would happen with the neck later on, like she might Reagan, turn her head 180 degrees or something, but yeah, I didn't follow the whole neck pain.
I think the spirits live in her throat. If you think about the first movie, and don't think about it too much, but remember, like, at the end, the child spit out all of that blackness that was inside of her. I think that she's a vessel for all these spirits, that her mom is, like, pushing her into this realm, and she's just accumulating all the ghosts that are going to be in this house that we don't quite know about yet. But at this time, again, it just looks like a mom who, again, is just so happy to have a connection to her husband again, to this profession, to her daughter. And it's Lena who just doesn't get it, right? She's the one character who is creeped out by it, doesn't like it, can't quite put her finger on why it feels wrong, but isn't rejoicing in the way that Alice and Doris are.
Well, I'll say the neck pain, I think, is where the demon doctor is starting to be introduced here. He hasn't fully taken over Doris yet, but I think he's starting to poke around the edges. And I also think Lena is starting to realize that she's slowly changing, and that's her that's her backing away and not being able to put her finger on what's going on yet.
Yeah, at one point her doll, I think, this is a total sibling thing. Like, who cares about this damn doll? You're too old for dolls. But this is my doll. You took my doll and you sewed the doll's lips, and Dad gave me this doll and I miss Dad. And, why do you get to be the one that talks to him all the time and not me? For lots of reasons, the sibling jealousy is such that we do see her, just having a problem with her sister. And then, I think it's spooky to think that she's having all of this pain. At one point, the girl is going to be whispering in her ear. She wakes up while the girl is whispering in her ear. And I do think just Lena is on to the fact that this is something more sinister than just dead father reaching out to us.
Yeah, it's definitely got a good spooky feel. I like the atmosphere of this film. I like the scenes of Doris when she's on her own. I like what the actress is doing here a lot. This actress, Lulu Wilson, I've seen her in stuff since this. We would see her the next year in Annabelle Creation, which I don't remember liking. The thing I remember her in was Becky, that 2020 film I saw during COVID. And I knew her when I saw this the first time. She was, as a very little girl, on a sitcom called The Millers that starred Will Arnett. It was on ABC. It didn't last very long, but it was funny as hell.
Too deep.
Yeah, well, she was a main character on it, and one of my favorites. She was just really had a great comic timing. And here, she has a really good spooky presence, and she plays little girl well.
Yeah, a lot of things start happening to her. She's waking up in the middle of the night and going back to that spirit board and trying to complain to Daddy, like, why is my neck hurting? Why are you doing this to me? And, okay, so what we see is she takes that planchette, holds it up to her eye while she looks in the mirror, and yes, Doug Jones, creature feature extraordinaire, has done lots of Guillermo del Toro works in latex, is some kind of creature bending her backwards, making her open her mouth, presumably so he can climb inside. Is that the demon doctor, or is that Marcus?
I thought that was the demon doctor.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well.
Okay, well, let me just share this. Just to jump ahead, we will see this little girl end up writing in cursive in Polish, something that 9-year-old girls in Los Angeles without that ethnic background probably can't do. And when it gets translated, what I hear is this. Okay, this is kind of a silly story, right? All right, so we start in, wherever, Germany, Poland, whatever, concentration camps. Marcus is a man that lost all of his family to a Mengele character. He was tortured by this Nazi doctor named the Devil's Doctor, but somehow escaped the camps, got to America, came to Los Angeles, where Devil Doctor had changed his name and ended up working at the, mental hospital that Marcus was eventually submitted to. And for reasons that are a little nebulous, Demon Doctor decided to take some of his patients, including Marcus, to the basement of this house. He owned this house?
Yeah, I think he lived in that house.
Okay, so this is Demon Doctor's house, and he created the secret room in the basement so he could continue to do Nazi experiments. And what I heard him say was Marcus wrote in the pages that he remembers dying, and then he remembers having inhuman things take him into a voiceless, insane, cold, dark. Which to me means that maybe Marcus got turned into a demon, right? Maybe it's the Devil's Doctor, or maybe all these people that got tortured because the doctor is an occultist, they became evil.
What I thought was the Devil Doctor is the guy in black. And this is reinforced by deleted scenes that show Doug Jones was playing the Doctor.
Okay, well that would be, yes, that would take away all mystery if you saw him out of this makeup playing a Nazi.
Yeah, there was brief footage of him as the Doctor experimenting on people. But I thought that this letter from Marcus was something that snuck out through handwriting, but that the Devil Doctor was the guy in black who went inside of her and is doing all this evil because he's just an evil person to begin with, hence why he's a Nazi Devil Doctor.
But there are other spirits inside her. Again, that she's a host, a vessel for all of it. And I have to believe that a lot of these tortured people didn't want to turn evil or have evil intent, but were made to be so because of him. So the relationship isn't totally clear. It's a little silly. I'll be honest. It's better if you don't think too hard about how all of this happened in this house. But the way that it's done, the way it's directed, certainly this moment where she's looking in the mirror and bending backwards and her mouth opening wide. Yeah, there's some real evocative horror here.
And also the CGI in this, I mean, obviously it's CGI when she's stretching out her mouth, but for a low-budget film, I think this actually looks good. It doesn't look too glossy or too plasticky. It doesn't look overly fake. It's just done at the right amount to hover on creepy. I think creepy is hard to do with CGI. A lot of times what you don't see is better than what you do see with CGI. And here, I think it's done really well.
They keep the shots brief enough, too, that it keeps it creepy, right? Like, I feel like a lot of modern movies like to show the monster and then, like, we dwell on it. And it's just like, it demystifies it whenever you see it for too long.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the creepy monster really is Doris at this point. She really starts acting bad. Like, there's this moment where she's standing on the hopscotch board, and the classmates, of course, they're going to pick on her. They've been picking on her. But one guy's got a slingshot, and he ends up turning it in his own face, close range. Well, again, I like the way it's shot, that people just go running. We never see what his face looks like. We can only imagine. But she's looking like Damien there when she turns around and stares at him.
Yeah, that's a fun scene. Just that look on her face. And yeah, this kid so deserved it.
Yeah.
But did Mikey deserve it? I mean, yes, he snuck over while Mom was going out on her date with the priest. Mikey came over and kissed Lena in her bedroom and is, they're going to go to the homecoming dance. He is getting serious. On the way out, though, I would never come back to this house again. I can honestly say that if the little sister graphically described to me how I might be asphyxiated and strangled, peace out.
It is a great speech, though. It is, again, this little girl is such a good actress. I found out in the commentary, this is what all the actresses had to do for their audition. This was their little audition monologue.
You got to be able to be scary. Yeah, I guess that's important. Yes.
Apparently, all the other little girls tried to do it scary. Mm-hmm. But this little girl did it like chipper scary instead of ominous scary. And immediately, Flanagan's like, she got the role.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But she's watching test patterns. Again, it makes me think of Poltergeist, that like she's watching TV when TV's not on anymore. And just that her way of communing with these spirits. And she's whispering in her sister's ear at night and getting the white eyes and not wanting to go to school. That part I understand. But like just generally, yes, she's becoming the monster.
Yeah, I think at this point she fully is the monster, right? Like I think Doris is now gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's certainly like... And Alice can't see it, which is part of the tragedy, is that she thinks she's helped her daughter by becoming this, spirit conduit, and is trying to tell Father Thomas at dinner that, no, come over, she'll give a reading and she'll talk to your dead wife, which I love his reaction to that. Like, first he's like appalled, and then he's like, well, maybe, like it opens up a lot, right? That this man of the cloth is going to step into this occult realm and try to connect to a woman before he was a priest.
Yeah, and because they had that date, he's already going outside the rules a little bit with her, so why not go to a seance with her?
And speaking of exorcists, I just want to call out, they do the shot, right? The famous Max von Sydow going to Reagan's house and staring up at the window. They do their own version of that. When he arrives at the house, he's holding the bag, and it doesn't quite look the same, but again, you get the reference, and you know what he's going for when Henry Thomas steps in to have this seance.
Yeah, the two films Flanagan was really trying to intentionally reference was, of course, The Exorcist, and then a George C. Scott movie I haven't seen called The Changeling.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I thought I caught a little bit of Rosemary's Baby vibe in here as well, but...
60s horror, right? Yeah.
Sure.
That's one of them, for sure. But, yeah, the scene is cool.
Yeah, this seance is cool, and I enjoy where they're going with it. And I was almost getting a little afraid that we were going to find out that Father Tom murdered his wife. It almost felt like something ominous was coming.
Ooh.
Something was about to be revealed, but it didn't go that way.
Yeah, you're right. There is a secret there. It didn't occur to me that that would be really dark, but you could have gone that way if you wanted. I felt like if this were a miniseries and not a 90-minute movie, you could probably do that, right? You could explore all the darkness of all these characters that come for readings, but no, he's just trying to test this child and see what she knows. Do you know my wife's middle name? And she knows what's the name in his mind, but he's thinking of another name than his wife's name. So she's proving that she has power, but also proving that she's not his wife.
Yeah, which is interesting that she can be a mind reader, but also not such a good mind reader that she doesn't know when all three huddle into a bedroom to presumably talk about Lena not doing well in school, that they're all going to talk about her and the devil doctor and the Polish letter.
Oh, she knows. That child knows what they're up to. I mean, everyone knows when we got to talk upstairs and you're not invited. Yeah, you just watch the test pattern again and you'll be fine. She knows very well, but I think she also may know that Mikey's coming over, and this gives her an opportunity to torment him further. She's going to tell him all about the treasure in the basement that he's heard so much about. And when he's reaching in there, he's not going to find more bags of money. He's going to find bags of like ID cards, which feels like these were the prisoners' IDs from the mental hospital or...
Yeah, victims.
Yeah, maybe all the way back to Auschwitz. It's hard to know. But yes, people that were the devil doctor's experiments.
And they're in a medical bag, that stereotypical black old school medical bag. My dad had one of those in the 60s. So I knew the look of that bag instantly, that it was a doctor's handbag. And then a skull is going to fly into the cavity of the wall.
Yeah, Mikey had mentioned when he was just alone with Lena that his dad was an architect. And he was trying to, make that sound like he knew what he was talking about. He was like, this house has good bones. Well, Doris knows that he had that thought. Again, how much does she know about what's going on in rooms what she's not allowed? But she's going to make that almost Freddy Krueger kind of joke. You were right about this house having good bones. And suddenly we find out, yes, in fact, all of these tortured victims are in the walls, making noise, their remains laying everywhere, and his eyes are going to go white. He is going to have the death scene that kicked off the first movie, that hanging in the stairwell.
Yeah, once again, what are they hanging from in this hallway? That lamp is there in this movie, and he's behind it. So there must be just a spare hanging hook in this house.
Yeah, the noose hook,
Yep.
Designed that way. If you know what, if the house was owned by a Nazi, probably did have that. Probably had a lot of weird hooks in this house.
And while this is just another visual reminder that I'm enjoying this movie, but also since we've watched them so close together, I can't help be even more disappointed with how lackluster the original movie was. We could be watching this movie and enjoying scenes in these same hallways and these same rooms from the first movie if it was good. But now it's just kind of a reminder of like, oh yeah, they're in the same bedroom from the first movie, but who cares?
And they're adding motivation where none was before. Why did the friend hang herself? We never really knew, and now we know that she was emulating a death that Doris wanted to see happen, or at least whatever's inside Doris.
But presumably Doris caused that with Debbie last film, so why Doris just likes hanging people from the ceiling, I don't know.
Well, again, if you're saying that she's a Nazi doctor, I'm not saying this is the most plausible, but at least it provides a motive, which again, just totally absent from the movie last time. Why people were doing anything was never explained, scene after a painful scene. And here we're actually seeing the work of a prequel is to explain the things we didn't understand about the original. And they really are trying. They really are keeping true to that first movie and outpacing it in every moment.
Agreed. It's a good horror movie that works so well within the constraints of PG-13. Usually I shit on PG-13 horror movies, and this one, I'm not scared, but it's got great atmosphere and a low body count, but it's a fun kill here of Mikey.
Yeah, and then the three are going to come back down. They had the whole dialogue about Marcus and, what his history had been. in this house. Thomas had actually requested an exorcist, but he's going to have to perform those duties because lights are going out and people are being dragged into the basement, and every attempt to burn the Ouija board is just turning into another attack. Soon he's holding a knife with his eyes white, trying to kill the women.
Yeah, the boiler in this house, we didn't bring it up last week, but it's just hysterical to me that you have this like fireplace boiler in the bottom of the house that you can throw bodies in and burn them later on. It's just this huge thing. But yeah, that's not going to stop the Ouija board. And Father Tom is going after the women, but Doris is going to throw him down some stairs and break his neck. And again, because it's PG-13, you can't make it too violent. I didn't realize he was dead until he never gets up, you know? It's like I didn't realize that was a fatal fall.
Yeah, they could write it however they want. If they want Henry Thomas to come back in the third movie, they could have it that way. But no, he's pretty much dead. And again, you want it to be about this family. We already know how it's going to go, right? We know from the data dump in the first movie that Lena is going to have to kill her mom, and that the mom is probably the one that killed Doris, but Doris was never found. These are the constraints of that backstory. How are they going to have it play out here? Well, mom's going to be chained in the basement, and daughter is going to be saved by dad. We'll have Roger reappear, and maybe it's just her imagination, but he sort of collects her, helps her realize that sewing that doll's lips is what she needs to do to her sister.
Yeah, I always thought it was Doris who tortured the doll and sewed the lip shut, or Doris said she didn't do it, but I thought maybe the spirit possessed Doris to do it, but we're going to find out, no, it's the ghost of the dad who sewed the doll's mouth shut as a way of saying, you need to do this to your sister.
Right. I could have used maybe one more shot of the family photo at some point halfway through the movie to remind us who the dad is. When this guy pops up, it's like, what? Who's this? Oh, it's dad. Okay.
Or just have it be a recognizable actor, right? Like if we saw him once, we'd be like, oh, okay. Yeah, it's him. But yeah, you may not really understand in the beat that he appears and takes his daughter into the bedroom. You might be like, who is the guy? But yes, Dad is been working behind the scenes. It hasn't been Marcus and Devil Doctor this whole time. He really was there too. He's trapped in the house. Again, we don't know how he died. Did he die here? I don't quite know. But anyway, he's putting Lena on the path.
It's kind of convenient, like Debbie showing up at the end of the last movie.
Mm-hmm.
We just want to have good ghosts to go with bad ghosts. And
there was a little Patrick Swayze ghost here.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I understand, Hasbro didn't enforce anything or say you can't do anything, but they also had ideas of ways, you know, that might market the Ouija board a little better. Maybe you want to say, hey, the Ouija board can talk to good people. If you go buy this Hasbro product, it's not going to just kill you and your friends. Maybe you'll talk to your dead dad.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, if you're thinking about the appeal, yes. I mean, kids want to talk to dead things. And if you have a dead loved one, then yeah, I imagine the need to believe that it could connect you is important.
Put that on the box.
I don't think anyone's going to get dewy-eyed in this moment. It is just kind of a cheesy convenience that Lena is now just empowered to go take this big fish hook and just start, you know, sewing up her sister as she's screaming in this climax in the basement. How does Doris die?
You know, there's a lot of spirits that come out of the ground while Doris's mouth is being sewn up. And there was this evil eye of Sauron in Doris's mouth.
In her throat. Yeah.
And, like, Lena gets thrown across the room by all of these spirits that are all, they're just black humanoid shapes.
They're all the tortured people, though, right? They're all the spirits in the wall that have been perverted, which again makes me think that Marcus could be doing evil things inside this girl.
Maybe, but what we see is Lena is thrown across the room and Doris then stands up and she's dead. So something happened here. The spirit of Doris, the true Doris, not the infested Doris, is now going off with her father into the afterlife, and Lena's left there with the corpse of the little girl. So we gotta have kind of a happy ending here. We gotta do that thing, but also the girl is dead with her mouth sewn shut.
And mom's gotta die too. I mean, at one point we have Alice tied, chained up, and We wonder how this is all going to work, because we know that Lena was the one that's supposed to get her. Lena does end up possessed, and that's a twist that maybe you see coming or not, but it's still kind of impactful when daughter stabs mom.
Yeah, this right here is where now I'm wishing that they weren't being a prequel to anything else, because all of a sudden a crappy movie is dictating where these chess pieces need to end up, right? Like, it would have been a little bit more fun not knowing where the last movie ended and put these people.
Mm-hmm. And I still don't know why Doris is never found, but whatever. Again, let's not try to connect too hard to that, crappy movie. And
well, I think there's something here. I mean, the devil, spirit, doctor, whatever, possessed Lena to kill her mom, which is very convenient because Lena was not helpful in the last movie, but she didn't seem possessed of an evil spirit, and she doesn't even seem possessed of an evil spirit when this movie ends necessarily.
She communes with him, though. I mean, that's the thing, is that she will see that she even has her own version of a Ouija board underneath the carpet in her padded cell.
Right. So she's possessed. I'm thinking the reason the body's never found is because possessed Lena buried Doris's body in that secret room before the cops came.
And drug mom's body out, right?
Yeah.
His mom died in that room as well. So she kind of staged a scene to some degree.
Yeah. They're doing their best to make a terrible movie's backstory have some emotional weight here. But I don't really care about this ending, because this ending's trying too hard to bring it back to Lynn Shay and all that stuff that I would rather not remember. But that Lena is now committed to an insane asylum. That's not Dr. Devil attending to her, right? There's just some, every mental health doctor has got to be seen as some kind of nefarious figure. He is freaked out that he thinks he sees his patient playing with the dead girl, but she's coming up on the ceiling behind him. I don't know. It's cheap.
Yeah, that's not the Devil Doctor. That's not Doug Jones, the actor. I looked up this guy because he looked a little familiar to me. It's a different performer, but yes, especially in the 60s, shrinks are evil.
Yeah, I don't know. It's some kind of ending, right? To have the creature attack a guy that's climbing on the ceiling. It's a jump scare. I don't know that it means much to me, but the movie's already kind of emotionally peaked, but it will eventually, follow the credits to the end. They actually called Lynn Shay back to do a cameo in a wheelchair.
I absolutely love the behind-the-scenes story of this. The original ending was that we see Lena outside the house, and then we go to Lynn Shay at the insane asylum. We didn't see Lena at the insane asylum. That was picked up in reshoots.
Uh-huh.
Apparently not enough people had seen the original Ouija, because people walked out of the theater and went, it's going to cross over with Insidious!
Yes.
That's why Lynn Shay is here! And
Yeah.
it really confused audience members, thinking that this was an Insidious reference. And so they're like, okay, we need to give Lena her own ending with the younger actress, and we will move the Lynn Shay thing to after the credits so that we don't confuse people.
Right, yeah. Of course, no one would remember a Ouija 2 years later, or that Lynn Shay had anything to do with it.
So as friends we gather, hearts are true, spirits near, we call to you to see, do you recommend Ouija, Origin of Evil? Justin.
When I saw both Ouija movies on the schedule, I pretty much thought we were in for it. I was like, oh, great, these are going to be crap. And then sat down and watched the first one. I was like, yep, we're in for some crap. And then, wow, what a turnaround. It is absolutely shocking to see a movie being made, a prequel being made of a movie that just was garbage. And I'll say it. I think they hit it out of the park with this. I mean, I think they fumbled the ending a little bit because I think they felt like they had their hands tied, right? Like they had to keep these pieces set up in a certain way to tie to that other movie for whatever reason. But they were unshackled enough to tell a good story. They changed the time frame. That first movie, they were telling us this was the 40s or the 50s. Well, they went with this late 60s. I think that's a better time frame to go with. It feels more in the beginning of the American horror genre, right? Like that's the time period I think of when I'm thinking of creepy stories. And I really like what they did here stylistically. Arnie, you already mentioned they got the little Mickeys in the corner for changing the reels, and they added the film grain and the original Universal Pictures logo up front. It just sets a tone that tells you that this movie is going to be different, and it got my hopes up early in the movie, and I feel like it delivered. I couldn't have asked for much more out of a sequel to a movie that I hated. So from that aspect, it's crazy, but how do you go ahead and recommend the sequel to a bad movie? But here we are. I think it's a first for me.
Stuart.
I can think of a few. Star Trek. I know it's unpopular, but I didn't like the first Evil Dead. There have been times where I went, nope, on that first one, and then the second one totally won me over. I'm just surprised that Mike Flanagan was willing to polish this turd that was a Ouija, like, God bless him, because he took a project that was just in shambles, that barely had a story to build a prequel on, a foundation of rotten teenagers with nothing interesting about them, getting white eyes and dying for no discernible reason. I couldn't have cared less how they got there or why Lin Shaye was in the mental hospital. I wanted the filmmakers put there. I didn't want to go back to Lin Shaye, but Mike Flanagan has a talent for this. I mean, I don't forget the fact that Dr. Sleep is my least favorite Stephen King novel, and his filming of that novel was not one of the worst Stephen King movies. I'll just put it that way. It's not one of the best, but he managed to make something more because he has a talent for, I think he really has, it's character driven. What is always interesting about his work, yes, he has a visual style. Yes, there are good jump scares here, but I really just love the way that all these people are so haunted and heartbroken. The priest that, gave up on women after his wife died and turned to the cloth, and then, maybe could try and find his way back by helping this occultist woman. The occultist woman who wanted to be like her mother and never could be, and then pushes her daughter to the brink of insanity, thinking that this was the right thing to do. These little character moments end up having more weight than you really would expect, and I think that is his gift here. Yeah, who needed a sequel to Ouija? Nobody. But I still don't recommend that you see it. You don't need to. I think you can watch this movie as a standalone movie, and it will be fine. I don't think you need to see the connective tissues to that trash we discussed last week. I think you just stick with this one. It's a fine film. It's a recommend.
Yeah, when this came out in 2016, I thought Ouija Origin of Evil was the biggest step up from an original film to a sequel I've ever seen. And after rewatching it, I'll stand by that. I mean, usually sequels suffer from diminishing returns, and the debate over whether any surpass their predecessor is usually limited to a handful of usual suspects. I mean, there's the great ones like Godfather 2 and Terminator 2, and yes, there are some not recommends in first parts, like, I'll agree with you, Stuart, the first Evil Dead is probably the roughest of the Evil Dead trilogy of movies, and that it stepped up, but there's still plenty of argument in film circles about, is the sequel better? But I don't think anyone is debating this one. All three of us agree Ouija Origin of Evil isn't just better than Ouija, it's a seance level miracle. The jump from a film I don't even care enough about to hate to one I genuinely love is immense. I mean, I racked my brain before this recording. I can't think of another case where such a terrible first movie resulted in such a great sequel. And Stuart, you always call me out for my optimism with franchises, hoping the next entry will be at least an improvement on what we've covered before. Mm-hmm. And usually that hope is buried in a wall in a basement near a boiler.
And now it's been stoked.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So they're all going to be Ouija 2s. That's what you can hope for.
Hey, this is proof that sometimes the spirits of cinema listen. I think the credit for this resurrection goes entirely to Mike Flanagan. And again, I've been lukewarm on his Stephen King adaptations and on the Hill House Netflix show we reviewed. But here, every period detail elevates this film. I love that it's a period piece, and you put a Ouija board in a period. I think it works better than a Ouija board in the 21st century with cell phones. I love that he crafts suspense, even though this entire movie is spoiled if you saw the first one. He's going to put the bow on the end to make it work in the frame of the first film, and yet it still has suspense and tragedy in the death of this family. But this film is Flanagan's vision, and it works. And the performances, I think they're uniformly fantastic, but especially Lulu Wilson as Doris. She's equally chilling as a demonic entity and heartbreaking as a scared little girl. So yeah, the planchette is locked on yes. Ouija Origin of Evil is something special and absolutely worth watching.
And you guys agree with me. You won't have any trouble just starting here. The value of what the first movie could tell you, not necessary.
Right. Yeah, it's almost the same conundrum as, kids growing up nowadays. When do you show them which Star Wars movies in which order? Do you let the surprise of who Yoda is come in Empire Strikes Back, or is Yoda just the guy from the first 3 movies that Luke eventually meets? Right? I don't think you need this backstory from the first movie to enjoy this. It actually might be more enjoyable with none of that baggage.
That's what I was thinking, Justin, is imagine if this ending wasn't spoiled and that this has such a bleak, dark ending as compared to, most horror movies, and on a happy note. Here, 2 people are dead and the third's in an insane asylum making a Ouija board out of her own blood. To not see that coming would be even better. Yes, there's 2 reasons not to watch that first Ouija movie. First, it sucks, and second, it undercuts this one, which would be even more powerful on its own.
I will also say you want to stop here, even though you could go forward into Ouija 3 and Ouija 4. Movies that were not produced by Hasbro, and thus we are not going to make their standalone podcast. And also, I will say, having watched them, I hope you guys did. They're just excruciatingly awful, and we don't need to sit through any more of that.
Nah. Did they try to tie to this story at all?
Oh my God. So the third one, it's called the Charlie Challenge. It doesn't even have a Ouija board in it. Apparently, the Charlie Challenge, which I've never heard of and never would play, is you put a pencil on top of another pencil, kind of like they're hands of a clock. And apparently some ghost named Charlie is going to make them spin around on a board and say yes or no kind of stuff. So I guess it's kind of like a Ouija, but this thing is like, I don't know who these people are that made it. I think they thought they were being funny. It's kind of a horror comedy in which these people play Charlie, and the people that are trying to prank them, the joke is they're the ones dying, and the people that normally would be killed are just walking around thinking nothing is happening. I guess that's some kind of joke, but just in almost every way unprofessional. I honestly don't know why they even released it. But if you're going to release it, you have to lie to the people and tell them it's Ouija 3, because nobody would want to see Charlie Challenge. And then the other one, at least it was an Ouija movie. It was kids. It's a Chinese film. It's a bunch of kids developing an app, like a Ouija app on your phone. Of course, that's what it would be in 2016, right? Why get together and hold hands when we could just all do it on our phones? Strangely, it really takes this weird dovetail in which this woman keeps having abortions. And it's all about how, she keeps having abortions and people think that's wrong. And in the end, she decides to keep the baby, and the spirit that they contacted on the Ouija board that killed all of her friends developing the app, like she looks in the ultrasound and like she's giving birth to the spirit or something. I don't know what they were going for with it. It was not intended as Ouija. It was called Are You Here in China. And then when Blumhouse got the rights to it, they're like, can we squeeze another dime out of this? Ouija 4.
Yeah, that's not even an American film. And the third one, I don't even think Blumhouse had any relation with. I think it was like some of those Italian sequels to movies.
Okay. Well, just say Ouija 3, and we're not saying it's necessarily that Ouija. Yeah, Hasbro is not involved. So thus we can very much clearly delineate not connected to these movies. And they're really not. And they're really awful. Like the first one was bad enough, but the first movie's better than either a Ouija 3 or Ouija 4.
And I guess had been some talk. The producer who worked on these films had talked with Hasbro a little bit about doing a Ouija 3, but Hasbro's leadership has changed, Universal Pictures leadership has changed, and nobody's really too interested in going back to the board.
It was always a strange idea. Like, I think you could use a Ouija board in a scene in a horror movie. How you build a whole horror movie around the board. You know, even Exorcist, it was a small part. Paranormal Activity, it was a small part. Only Witchboard. I guess we got to do that series, right? Tawny Katane. There were like 8 of them or something, I think, by the end. I bowed out after the first one, but it just doesn't seem like a great story engine for a whole movie. And again, isn't. With the exception of that second film, Ouija's have been some pretty terrible films. The worst board game movie ever made so far.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. So much more competent than Battleship.
No. Oh, no. I would rather watch Battleship any day than that Ouija 2014. But we're not done with it. We're moving on to role-playing games, and that means we're headed back to the 80s, where, okay, it's not Dungeons and Dragons yet, but they tried to warn kids about, and parents, about the dangers of playing Dungeons and Dragons. You'll lose your mind, you'll kill people, you won't have any friends, you'll play mazes and monsters. A 1982 TV movie, which gave us, I believe, the screen debut of Tom Hanks.
Ooh.
You know, this movie was recently released in Blu-ray. There apparently are people who have fond memories of it. I have vague memories of it. I saw it twice in the early 80s and have ever since just kind of had a place in my heart for it as a concept, as you and I played Dungeons and Dragons, Stuart, and my mother thought I would end up down this path.
Yeah.
So
it's worth just underlining there were really concerned parents in the 80s that really thought that, yes, role-playing games would lead to psychosis and homicide. And, well, it will for Tom Hanks. I'll just leave it at that. We'll talk about that movie next week. And in the meantime, if we're talking about bad movies, there ain't one worse darling than Showgirls. This Friday for patrons, we're going to the mother of all so bad it's good movies. 1995 Paul Verhoeven Showgirls. Because we love you, March patrons.
Yes, it is one of 2 bonus reviews for March patrons. Our first ever exclusive retrospective series just for monthly patrons of $10 or more. Showgirls this Friday. Next Friday, did you even know there was a sequel? But we're covering it too.
Yeah, like the Charlie Charlie challenge. It's like, where did this come from?
Pennies from Heaven with an apostrophe S.
Something tells me it's not coming from heaven.
So you can hear those and over 100 other exclusive bonus reviews by being a $10 a month patron on Apple, Spotify, Podbean, or Patreon. And thank you for your support. We really hope you can just tuck a buck and join us for Showgirls this Friday. Or tuck a 10 spot. Make it hail at the podcast. Make it rain on us. So thank you for your support. Justin Stewart, thank you for joining me. And now it's time to pick up the pieces and go home.
So be honest. Was it you moving the planchette?
No. You?
No. No way.
Thank you for listening to this Now Playing Podcast movie review.
I can't thank you enough. That was amazing.
Support from listeners like you keeps Now Playing Podcast on the air.
I don't know how else to make you hear me.
You can donate directly by tapping the support button at nowplayingpodcast.com.
It cost us $5.
Help us spread the word about this show by leaving a 5-star review on Stitcher, Podbean, iTunes, or your podcast store of choice.
We tell them the truth, we just need to help them believe it.
You can also compare notes with us on Letterboxd. Go to letterboxd.com/nowplaying to see what our hosts are watching when we're not recording podcasts. And follow Now Playing on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our YouTube channel.
I wish you'd join us. It could help you heal.
On our site, you can hear reviews for every installment in the world's biggest film franchises, including the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Star Wars, Spider-Man, Batman, X-Men, James Bond, Middle-earth, Jurassic Park, Fast and Furious, and Transformers.
I heard the voices too. They tell you the most wonderful, awful things.
Now Playing Podcast is produced by Arnie Carvalho.
The energy is growing. and it is hard to stop.
Associate produced by Jason Latham.
You wanted us to play, we did, and now we can leave it alone.
Now Playing is edited by Heath, Santiago, and Arnie.
He's gone. He lives in the dark and the cold, and he screams and screams and screams.
Now Playing credits read by Brock.
We're gonna need to spice that showmanship up a little.
The opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual hosts and may not reflect the views of Venganza Media Incorporated.
No secrets between us, remember?
Venganza Media Incorporated is not affiliated with, and this podcast has not been prepared, approved, or licensed by any entity that created the film analyzed herein.
Scam is a lie. We don't lie. We help people.
All movie clips and music included in this podcast are the intellectual property of their respective copyright holders. They are included here for the purpose of review and no infringement is intended.
Think that'll work?
I honestly don't know.
Now Playing Podcast is an exclusive trademark of and may not be used without the express written permission of Venganza Media Incorporated.
I don't want to go. I want to stay here and talk to my friends.
Now Playing is a Venganza Media production, copyright 2025, and no part of this show may be reproduced, repurposed, or redistributed without the written permission of Venganza Media Incorporated. All rights reserved.
You were never alone. I'll never be alone. I'll never be alone again.